I'm Samantha Mitchell, 29, and I grew up watching my single mother hand everything to my younger brother Tyler while I worked multiple jobs since 15. Despite the financial struggle, I put myself through college with scholarships and side gigs while Tyler got new gaming systems and allowances. Today, I'm a senior software developer at a prestigious tech company in Boston, a success built entirely on my own sacrifice and determination. I never expected that my success would become the catalyst for the biggest family confrontation of my life. Before I dive into what happened when my mother discovered my new income, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and hit subscribe if you've ever had to establish difficult boundaries with family. Growing up in our small apartment on the outskirts of Boston wasn't easy. My mom, Melissa, worked inconsistently as a receptionist, often between long stretches of unemployment when she claimed the stress was too much. From my earliest memories, there was a clear favorite in our household, and it wasn't me. My brother Tyler, 4 years younger, received everything from new clothes to the latest video games, while I wore hand-me-downs and saved lunch money for school supplies. By 15, I was juggling weekend shifts at the local grocery store and babysitting after school. Not because I wanted spending money like other teens, but because someone needed to make sure the electricity stayed on. Meanwhile, Tyler never worked a day in his life. When he wanted the newest iPhone at 16, Mom somehow found the money. When I needed a graphing calculator for AP Calculus, I picked up extra shifts to buy a used one. The disparity was never clearer than at my high school graduation. I graduated with honors, earned a partial scholarship to a state university, and was the first in our family headed to college. Mom threw a small party. If you could call a store-bought cake and a $20 gift card a celebration. 3 years later, when Tyler barely graduated with a C average, Mom rented a party venue, invited extended family I hadn't seen in years, and gifted him a used car. Tyler needs more encouragement than you, she'd explain when I questioned the difference in treatment. You've always been so independent. College was my escape. I'd earned a partial scholarship but still needed loans, and worked 20 hours weekly at the campus library, and another 15 tutoring math on weekends. That's where I met Rachel Bennett during my sophomore year when she came in for statistics help. We instantly clicked, and she became the supportive friend I'd never had growing up. Rachel came from a loving family who often included me in holiday celebrations when I couldn't afford the bus ticket home or simply couldn't face the emotional toll of being there. Your mom has turned weaponized incompetence into an art form, Rachel observed during our junior year after hearing stories about my childhood. As a psychology major, she saw patterns I was still too close to recognize. And your brother learned from the master. After graduation, I landed an entry-level programming job at a small tech firm. The salary wasn't impressive, but it was stable, and included health insurance, something I'd never had consistently growing up. I lived with 3 roommates in a cramped apartment, ate ramen more often than I'd like to admit, and dedicated every spare dollar to paying down student loans. Meanwhile, Tyler lived at home rent-free, cycling through jobs he'd quit when they became too stressful or not fulfilling enough. Mom always had excuses ready. The manager had it out for him, or the environment was toxic. She supported him financially, while occasionally calling me to borrow money for unexpected expenses that mysteriously coincided with Tyler's want for new gaming equipment or concert tickets. 5 years of dedication, night courses in advanced programming languages, and strategic job changes led me to my current position as a senior software developer at TechFuture, one of Boston's fastest-growing software companies. Last month, I received a substantial promotion and salary increase that nearly doubled my income. After years of sacrifice, I finally moved into a nice one-bedroom apartment in a secure building. I bought reliable furniture instead of secondhand pieces. I drive a practical but new car, fully paid off because I saved for it. I'm not extravagant, but for the first time in my life, I'm comfortable. Through it all, I maintained minimal contact with my family. I send birthday and Christmas gifts, take occasional calls, and visit briefly during major holidays. It's easier to maintain emotional distance while still doing the bare minimum to avoid complete estrangement. Mom still calls, but only when bills are due or Tyler needs something. I've become an ATM rather than a daughter, and I've reluctantly accepted that role with strict boundaries on what I'll provide. Family isn't supposed to be transactional, Rachel. Now a practicing therapist often reminds me. Your worth isn't measured by what you can provide financially. I was beginning to believe her until my professional success accidentally became public knowledge. It started with a congratulatory text from my cousin Amber. We haven't spoken in over a year, so seeing her name pop up on my phone was surprising enough. The message was even more unexpected. Way to go on that big promotion, Sam. Always knew you'd make it big. We should catch up sometime. I stared at the message, confusion settling in. How did she know about my promotion? I hadn't posted about it on personal social media. Then the realization hit. My LinkedIn profile. In my professional excitement, I'd updated my profile with my new title, Technical Director at Tech Future. I hadn't thought about the family members who might be connected to my professional account. Rookie mistake, I muttered to myself as I checked my privacy settings. Too late now. Within hours, my phone began lighting up with messages from distant relatives I barely remembered, old neighbors, and high school acquaintances. Everyone suddenly wanted to reconnect and catch up on old times. I responded politely but briefly to most, ignoring the more obvious attempts at networking for jobs or financial advice. Then came the call I'd been dreading. Mom's name flashed on my screen 3 days after I updated my LinkedIn. I took a deep breath before answering. Samantha, it's been too long since we talked, she gushed with unusual enthusiasm. Hi, Mom. Everything okay? Can't a mother just call to check on her successful daughter? Her voice carried that saccharine tone she used when wanting something. I miss you, that's all. We exchanged awkward pleasantries. She asked about Boston's weather, my apartment, whether I was seeing anyone. Then came the pivot I was waiting for. So, I heard through the grapevine you got some big promotion. Technical director. Sounds important. It's just a title change, I downplayed, immediately regretting confirming the information. Don't be modest, Tyler Googled the position. Says those jobs pay 6 figures. My daughter, making that kind of money. She gave a theatrical sigh. I always knew you were special. The conversation shifted as she began detailing her own financial troubles. Property taxes had increased. Her car needed expensive repairs. The electricity bill was unexpectedly high. I hate to even mention it, she said in that martyred tone I knew too well. But things have been really tight lately. I've been picking up extra receptionist shifts, but with inflation. I cut to the chase. How much do you need, Mom? Oh, honey, I couldn't possibly, she began, before naming an amount. Maybe 200? Just until payday next week. It was a relatively small request, suspiciously so, but I transferred the money while we were still on the phone. I knew from experience that setting clear boundaries was important. This is a one-time thing, I said firmly. I'm happy to help in an emergency, but I have my own expenses. Of course, she agreed too quickly. You're so generous. Not everyone would help their mother out like this. After hanging up, I felt the familiar mix of guilt and resentment. $200 wouldn't break me, but the emotional manipulation left me drained. I tried to shake it off, hoping this would satisfy her for a while. The next few days brought unusual attention from Tyler, my brother, who typically only contacted me on holidays, or when directly instructed by Mom, suddenly texted daily with vague questions about my job and life in Boston. His messages carried thinly veiled references to money. Families supposed to have each other's backs, right? Especially when some have more than others, one message read. That's what successful people do. They lift others up, said another. I showed the strange messages to James, my boyfriend of 2 years, as we prepared dinner in my apartment. James came from a close-knit, emotionally healthy family, something that had initially made me wary of our relationship. How could he possibly understand my family dynamics? They're setting you up for something, he observed, handing me chopped vegetables for the stir-fry. This feels coordinated. It's how they operate, I sighed. Mom identifies a potential resource. Then they tag-team the approach. You know you don't owe them anything, right? James looked at me with concern. Supporting family is one thing, but this feels predatory. I know that logically, I admitted, but emotionally, it's complicated. James hugged me from behind as I stirred the vegetables. Just remember, you have people who love you for you, not for your wallet. I decided to maintain firm boundaries while still offering reasonable help for legitimate needs. I'd send a modest check for Mom's birthday next month. I'd offer to review Tyler's resume if he was genuinely job hunting. What I wouldn't do was open my finances to their unlimited access. The next day, I received a call from Danielle Thompson, my supervisor at work. My stomach dropped when she mentioned a personal call. Someone named Melissa called the main office line asking for you, Danielle said. She said it was a family emergency. When reception couldn't reach you, they transferred her to me. I'm so sorry, I said, mortified. What did she say? That she urgently needed to speak with you about a medical situation, Danielle replied. I gave her your voicemail but wanted to check if everything's okay. There's no emergency, I explained, feeling heat rise in my face. My mother sometimes exaggerates to get immediate attention. Danielle's voice softened. I understand family complications. Just wanted to make sure you're all right. After thanking her, I checked my phone to find 3 missed calls from Mom and a vague text about urgent family business. I stepped outside to return the call, my irritation building. When she answered, there was no mention of medical emergencies. I've been thinking about your brother, she began without preamble. He's really struggling to find his path. Not everyone gets the opportunities you did. The opportunities she referred to were my scholarships and jobs, all things I'd secured through my own efforts. I bit back a sharp reply. What does Tyler need? I asked directly. Well, we were hoping to discuss that in person, she said. We're planning to visit Boston this weekend. Just a quick trip to see my successful daughter's new life. My blood ran cold. They were coming here? To my space? Mom, this weekend isn't good for me. I have work commitments and plans with James. We'll work around your schedule, she insisted. We've already booked the bus tickets. Tyler is so excited to see where his big sister lives now. I ended the call with a vague agreement to touch base closer to the weekend, my mind racing with anxiety. They weren't asking permission, they were informing me of their arrival. My carefully constructed boundary between Boston Sam and Family Sam was about to collapse. Saturday morning started peacefully. James and I were enjoying coffee on my small balcony, planning a day trip to a nearby hiking trail, when the intercom buzzed. I wasn't expecting deliveries or visitors. Samantha Mitchell? Your mother and brother are here to see you, announced the building security guard. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. What? They weren't supposed to be here until evening. James squeezed my hand. Want me to tell them you're not available? I considered it momentarily but shook my head. They'd just keep coming back. Better to get this over with. Minutes later, Mom burst through my door with exaggerated enthusiasm. Arms wide for a hug, I reluctantly accepted. She wore more makeup than usual and a new blouse with the price tag partially hidden under the collar. Look at this place, she exclaimed, eyes darting around my apartment, cataloging everything of value. So fancy, hardwood floors and everything. Tyler sauntered in behind her, offering a half-hearted fist bump instead of a greeting. At 25, he looked older than his age, the result of late nights gaming and a diet of energy drinks and fast food. He immediately headed for my refrigerator without asking. You got any real beer? This craft stuff looks expensive but tastes like dirt, he complained, helping himself to a bottle anyway. Please, make yourself at home, I muttered sarcastically. Your building has a doorman, Mom noted, running her hand along my quartz countertop. Must be nice to afford such luxuries. It's not a doorman, Mom. It's basic security, I corrected. And I chose this building specifically because of it. Well, la-di-da, Tyler snickered, sprawling across my sofa. Security from what? People like us? James extended his hand to my mother, gracefully changing the subject. I don't think we've formally met. I'm James Cooper, Sam's boyfriend. Mom gave him a quick once-over, noting his quality watch and well-fitting clothes. Her smile widened. Melissa Mitchell. Sammy never mentioned how handsome her boyfriend is. Probably because I go by Sam, not Sammy, and my boyfriend's appearance isn't the first thing I'd mention about him, I said, the edge in my voice unmistakable. We settled in the living room with uncomfortable small talk. Mom asked probing questions about my job, focusing suspiciously on numbers. So what does a technical director make these days? 6 figures, I bet. Mom, that's not appropriate to ask, I replied firmly. Oh, don't be so secretive. We're family. She laughed as if my boundaries were a cute quirk. I saw that fancy watch you posted online. Anniversary gift from your company, right? 5 years? Those must cost thousands. I unconsciously touched the watch on my wrist. It was indeed a 5-year anniversary gift from Tech Future, a tradition for long-term employees. I'd posted a single photo when I received it, proud of the professional milestone it represented. That's not really the point of. Speaking of career success, Mom interrupted, nudging Tyler. Tell your sister about your business idea. Tyler straightened slightly, affecting an entrepreneur's confidence that didn't match his stained t-shirt. I'm launching a gaming platform, like Twitch but better. All I need is startup capital. That sounds interesting, I said cautiously. What's your business plan? Market research? Tyler exchanged glances with Mom. I don't need all that corporate paperwork. I know gaming. I know what people want. I'd be happy to review a business plan if you put one together, I offered. I have contacts in tech venture capital who might— We were thinking more direct investment, Mom interjected. Family supporting family. What kind of investment are you talking about? Mom and Tyler exchanged another look before she answered. Tyler needs about $25,000 to get started. Equipment, website development, marketing. I nearly choked. $25,000? Without a business plan? And I need about $10,000 to clear some credit card debt, Mom added casually, as if requesting spare change. The interest is killing me, and now that you're doing so well, the audacity left me speechless. James shifted uncomfortably beside me, his presence a silent support. That's $35,000, I finally managed. Do you understand what you're asking? It's nothing to you now, Tyler scoffed. Probably one bonus check. That's not how money works, Tyler. I have student loans, retirement savings, an emergency fund. After all, I sacrificed raising you alone, Mom interjected, her voice taking on the martyred tone I knew well. I worked double shifts when you were kids. When I was in elementary school, maybe, I countered. By middle school, I was cooking dinner and helping Tyler with homework while you were too tired to function. Tyler stood abruptly. You can easily afford it with your fancy job and fancy boyfriend. You've just become too stuck up to help family. James cleared his throat. I think we all need to take a step back. Financial decisions shouldn't be made under pressure. This is family business, Mom snapped at him. No offense, but you're not part of this conversation. He absolutely is part of this conversation, I said firmly. This is my home, and he's my partner. So your boyfriend gets a say in your money, but your family doesn't? Tyler's voice rose. That's messed up, Sam. I'm not giving either of you cash without a clear purpose and plan, I stated clearly. I can help in other ways. I can connect you with financial counseling, Tyler with job coaches. I always knew you'd turn your back on family once you got money, Mom interrupted, tears springing to her eyes with practiced precision. After everything I did for you. The accusation stung despite its obvious manipulation. This was exactly why I'd maintained distance. Every interaction became emotional blackmail. As I held firm on not handing over cash, Mom's tactics shifted dramatically. Her expression crumpled, and genuine-looking tears replaced the performative ones. I didn't want to burden you with this. But we're facing eviction next week, she sobbed, digging through her purse for tissues. The landlord raised the rent again, and with my hours cut at work, Tyler jumped in seamlessly, adding details to enhance the story. We'll be homeless, Sam, in winter. Is that what you want? Your mother on the streets because you're too selfish to share? I felt the familiar guilt rising, the programming installed from childhood that I was responsible for fixing family problems. For a moment, I wavered. James, who had been quietly observing, discreetly pulled out his phone and tapped the screen a few times. He tilted it slightly so I could see. Mom's Facebook profile displayed photos from last month, her smiling on a 3-day cruise, cocktail in hand, with the caption, "Living my best life." "Mom," I said slowly, "how did you afford a Caribbean cruise last month if you're facing eviction?" Her tears stopped abruptly. Tyler shot her an irritated look. "That was different money," she stammered. "A gift from a friend." "A friend gave you cruise tickets but won't help with rent?" I pressed. Mom quickly pivoted strategies. "It's not just rent. I've been having health problems. The doctors think it might be serious." "What health problems? What doctors?" My suspicion was fully activated now. "Women's problems," she said vaguely. "I'd rather not discuss the details in front of James." "Then let me help you find financial assistance for medical bills," I offered. "There are programs." "We don't need programs," Tyler interjected angrily. "We need family who doesn't think they're too good for us now that they've got money." Mom pulled out her phone and dialed with shaking fingers, putting it on speaker. "Aunt Debbie? It's Melissa. I'm here with Samantha." Her voice took on a trembling quality. "She won't help us even though we might be homeless soon. After all I've done as a single mother." I stared in disbelief as she created an audience for her performance. Through the speaker, I heard my aunt's gasp of disapproval. "Samantha Mitchell, your mother sacrificed everything for you kids?" Within minutes, my phone buzzed with text messages from extended family members I barely knew, all taking Mom's side based on whatever story she'd been spreading. "You're manipulating the entire family against me," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Tyler stood suddenly, slamming his beer bottle on my coffee table. "You know what? Keep your money. We don't need your charity." He headed toward the door, pausing to glare at my car keys on the entry table. "Nice car, though. Would be a shame if something happened to it." James immediately moved between Tyler and my keys. That sounded like a threat. "Mind your own business, rich boy," Tyler sneered, stepping toward James with clenched fists. "Tyler!" I called sharply. "Stop it now." Mom made no move to intervene in Tyler's threatening behavior. Instead, she sighed dramatically. "Now look what you made him do, Samantha. You always push him until he snaps, then play victim." The familiar dynamic, Tyler's aggression, Mom's enabling, my supposed responsibility for both, crystallized everything. This wasn't about money. This was about control. "You need to leave," I said quietly. "Both of you. Now." "You're kicking out your own mother?" Mom's voice rose for the benefit of Aunt Debbie, still listening on speaker. "I'm asking you to leave my home after Tyler threatened my property and my boyfriend. If you don't leave now, I'll call the police." Mom's eyes widened in genuine shock. "You'd call the police on your own family?" "Watch me," I replied, picking up my phone. The threat was enough. They gathered their things amid hissed recriminations. "The whole family will know how you've treated us," Mom warned at the door. "Don't expect anyone to take your side." After they left, I collapsed onto the sofa, shaking with adrenaline and emotion. James sat beside me, saying nothing but offering his steady presence. "I'm sorry you had to witness that," I finally said. "I'm not," he replied thoughtfully. "Now I understand a lot more about you, your independence, your caution with money, why you struggle to accept help." He squeezed my hand. "You're remarkably strong, Sam." The aftermath was immediate. Mom posted a vague but clearly targeted social media update about the pain when children forget where they came from once they achieve success. My phone filled with messages from family members, some concerned, others condemning. My carefully separated worlds had collided, and the explosion left damage everywhere. The days following the confrontation brought a barrage of hostile messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications from people taking sides in a family drama they only understood through Mom's carefully crafted narrative. "How could you refuse to help with your mother's medical treatments?" texted a second cousin. "Family always comes first," wrote an uncle I'd met twice in my life. Mom had expertly positioned herself as the abandoned single mother whose selfish daughter had forgotten her roots. Screenshots forwarded by a sympathetic cousin revealed Mom's social media campaign. Photos of their sparsely furnished apartment captioned "Making do with what we have while others live in luxury," and vague references to unexpected medical challenges that some people are too busy to care about. The narrative she'd constructed bore little resemblance to reality, but contained just enough truth to seem plausible to outsiders. Yes, she had been a single mother. Yes, I now earned a good living. The manipulative context and history remained conveniently absent. Rachel came over with takeout and wine 3 days after the confrontation, creating space for me to process everything. "This is classic triangulation," she explained, refilling my glass. "Instead of communicating directly with you, she's recruiting others to apply pressure. It distributes the emotional labor so she doesn't have to do it all herself." "It's working," I admitted. "I've gotten so many messages that I've started to question myself. Maybe I am the selfish one?" "That's the gaslighting part," Rachel replied. "The fact that you're questioning yourself shows your capacity for empathy and self-reflection. People who are actually selfish rarely worry about being selfish." The emotional toll began affecting my work. I found myself making careless errors in code reviews, missing details in meetings, and struggling to focus on complex problems. After I missed a critical deadline for the third time, Danielle asked me to stay after a team meeting. "I've noticed you seem distracted lately," she said gently when we were alone. "Your work has always been exceptional, so this change is concerning. Is everything all right?" I hesitated, reluctant to bring personal drama into my professional space. But Danielle had always been more than just a supervisor. She'd been a mentor who helped me navigate the tech world as a woman from a non-traditional background. "I'm dealing with some complicated family dynamics," I finally admitted. "They've discovered my improved financial situation and have expectations I'm not comfortable meeting." Danielle nodded thoughtfully. "The success tax." "The what?" "The success tax. It's what some families charge their members who manage to climb the socioeconomic ladder." She smiled sadly. "I've been there myself." For the next hour, Danielle shared her own experience with family members who appeared with financial demands after her first executive position. Her story mirrored mine with uncanny similarity. The guilt, the manipulation, the community pressure. "How did you handle it?" I asked. "Therapy, boundaries, and time," she answered. "I can recommend someone if you'd like. The company insurance covers it." I accepted her offer and started sessions the following week with Dr. Marcus, a colleague of Rachel's who specialized in family systems. While the therapy helped process my emotions, the external situation continued deteriorating. Tyler escalated by commenting publicly on TechFuture's social media posts where I was featured. "Ask Sam Mitchell how she treats real family," he wrote under a company post, celebrating our team's successful product launch. Several colleagues saw the comment before the social media team removed it, creating whispers and uncomfortable questions. The professional embarrassment reached its peak when Mom left a rambling voicemail threatening to contact TechFuture's CEO about my unethical behavior and abandonment of family obligations. The anxiety that followed triggered my first ever panic attack during a presentation to senior leadership. Sleepless nights became routine. I installed additional security on my apartment after finding Tyler had researched my address online. The sanctuary I'd built in Boston felt violated, my hard-earned security threatened. Then came an unexpected call from my grandmother Karen, Mom's mother, whom I spoke with occasionally but who generally stayed out of family drama. "Samantha, I've been hearing some concerning stories," she began. "I wanted to get your perspective before making any judgments. Unlike others, Grandma Karen actually listened to my side, asking thoughtful questions without immediate condemnation. When I finished explaining, she sighed heavily. "This isn't the first time Melissa has done this," she revealed. "Your mother has a pattern of financial dependency that goes back to her teenage years." Over the next hour, Grandma shared family history I'd never known. How Mom had manipulated her own parents for money repeatedly. How she'd received a substantial inheritance from my grandfather but squandered it within a year, on luxury purchases and loans to boyfriends that were never repaid. "I love my daughter, but I've watched her repeat these patterns for decades," Grandma said. She's recreating with Tyler the same dependent relationship she had with her father, and now she's trying to establish it with you. This new perspective helped connect puzzle pieces I'd been missing. Mom's financial irresponsibility wasn't situational, it was a lifelong pattern. Tyler wasn't just lazy. He was being actively groomed as a perpetual dependent. And I wasn't crazy for establishing boundaries. Why didn't you tell me this before? I asked. You needed to see it for yourself, Grandma replied. Some lessons can't be taught, only learned through experience. While this conversation brought clarity, the emotional turmoil continued. The following week, during a critical client presentation, I froze mid-sentence as anxiety overwhelmed me. My carefully constructed professional identity cracked as I excused myself from the conference room, barely making it to the bathroom before breaking down in tears. Danielle covered for me smoothly, but the incident marked a turning point. Something had to change. I couldn't continue living with this level of stress and remain effective at work or present in my relationship with James. But before I could implement any new strategies, the situation would escalate beyond anything I'd imagined. After a particularly demanding day at work, I dragged myself up to my apartment, looking forward to a quiet evening alone. James was traveling for a conference, and I planned to order takeout and decompress with mindless television. The first warning sign appeared immediately. My door was unlocked. I distinctly remembered locking it that morning. I always double-checked since the confrontation with Mom and Tyler. Heart racing, I pushed the door open cautiously. Finally! We've been waiting forever, Mom's voice called from my living room. I froze in the doorway, staring in disbelief. Mom and Tyler sat comfortably in my living room, surrounded by takeout containers and open drinks. Mom was flipping through a magazine from my coffee table while Tyler played a game on his phone. How did you get in here? My voice came out barely above a whisper. The emergency key you gave me years ago, Mom replied casually. Remember when you first moved to Boston? I did remember. During my first year after college, Mom had visited once and insisted I give her a key in case something happened. I'd never expected her to keep it, much less use it without permission. You can't just enter my apartment when I'm not home, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. That's breaking and entering. Don't be dramatic, Mom waved dismissively. Family can't break in. We were worried about you. You've been ignoring our calls. My eyes darted around the apartment, noticing disturbing details. My desk drawers were partially open. Papers that had been neatly filed were spread across the surface. My laptop was open when I'd closed it before leaving. Have you been going through my things? The violation felt physical, like a punch to the stomach. Tyler shrugged, not looking up from his game. Just looking for the internet password. Your Netflix account is logged out. Walking further into my own apartment, I spotted more evidence of invasion. My bedroom door stood open, clothes disturbed in the closet. The drawer where I kept personal documents, including financial statements, was slightly ajar. You went through my financial documents, I stated flatly, the reality sinking in. You invaded my privacy to find out exactly how much money I have. We had to see what you're hiding from us, Mom replied with shocking candor. You've been lying about what you can afford. The final straw came when I noticed Tyler wearing a watch. My watch, the company anniversary gift that held significant professional and emotional value. Take off my watch, I demanded, my voice dropping dangerously low. Finders keepers, Tyler smirked. It was just sitting in your jewelry box. He deserves nice things too, Samantha, Mom defended. You have so much, and he has so little. In that moment, something fundamental shifted inside me. The fear, guilt, and obligation that had defined our relationship for decades crystallized into perfect clarity. This wasn't love. This had never been love. This was parasitic exploitation dressed up as family loyalty. I want you both to leave right now, I said with remarkable calm. Return my watch and anything else you've taken, and get out. If you make us leave, don't ever expect to be part of this family again, Mom threatened, her eyes narrowing. I've never truly been part of this family, I replied, the truth of it washing over me. I've been your ATM, your emotional support, and your scapegoat. But never your daughter. Tyler stood, towering over me with threatening posture. Make sure your fancy work knows what a bitch you are to your family. I bet they'd love to hear how the perfect Samantha Mitchell treats her own blood. Get out or I'm calling the police, I repeated, pulling out my phone. You wouldn't dare, Mom hissed. I dialed 911 and put the phone on speaker. 911. What's your emergency? I need to report a break-in at my apartment, I said clearly. The intruders are still here. Mom's face contorted with rage and disbelief as I calmly gave the dispatcher my address. Tyler lunged toward me, but I stepped back quickly, raising my voice to ensure the dispatcher heard. They're becoming threatening now. Please hurry. The reality that I'd actually called authorities seemed to penetrate their entitlement. Tyler threw my watch onto the coffee table and headed for the door, cursing viciously. Mom followed more slowly, tears streaming down her face. Whether from genuine emotion or manipulation, I no longer cared to distinguish. After everything I've done for you, she sobbed dramatically at the door. You'll regret this, Samantha. You'll have no family left. I already don't, I replied quietly. The police arrived minutes after they left. The officers were sympathetic when I explained the situation. Unauthorized entry, theft attempt, threats. They recommended filing for a restraining order given the circumstances and took detailed notes of the incident. After they left, the apartment fell silent. I locked the door, slid down against it, and finally allowed myself to break down completely. Years of suppressed emotion poured out in gut-wrenching sobs that left me gasping for air. The violation of my space, my sanctuary, felt like the final boundary crossed. I called James first, who offered to catch the next flight back despite being mid-conference. Then I called Rachel, who arrived 30 minutes later with overnight essentials and unwavering support. You did the right thing, she assured me, as we cleaned up the mess left behind. This wasn't about money. This was about control. I called the police on my own mother, I whispered. The reality's still shocking. No, Rachel corrected firmly. You called the police on people who broke into your home, violated your privacy, and threatened you. The fact that one of them gave birth to you doesn't negate those actions. I took emergency leave from work the next day. Danielle was understanding when I explained the situation in vague terms, promising to redistribute my projects temporarily. The weekend passed in a blur of anxiety, legal consultations about restraining orders, and periodic breakdowns when the emotional weight became too heavy. Grandma Karen called after hearing about the incident, not from Mom, who was apparently telling a very different version, but from a neighbor who'd seen the police at my building. You did what you needed to do, she affirmed. Melissa crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. I want you to know that not everyone in this family blames you. Her support was a lifeline during the darkest moments of self-doubt. If Mom's own mother understood my actions as necessary, perhaps I wasn't the villain in this story after all. That night, lying awake beside James, who had returned early from his conference, I confronted the painful truth. The family I desperately tried to maintain connection with existed only in my hopes, not in reality. The mother who would love me unconditionally, the brother who would mature into a supportive relationship, these were fantasies I'd clung to despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. I don't know who I am without this struggle, I confessed in the darkness. Even from a distance, they've defined so much of my identity, proving I'm not like them, proving I can succeed despite them. James pulled me closer. That's the thing about defining yourself in opposition to something. You're still letting it define you. Maybe now you get to discover who Samantha Mitchell is when she's just herself. The thought was simultaneously terrifying and liberating. Who was I without the weight of toxic family obligations? I had no idea, but for the first time, I felt ready to find out. The month following the break-in transformed my life in ways both practical and profound. Within days, I had changed my locks, updated all passwords and security settings, and installed a simple security camera at my front door. The building management added notes to my account, prohibiting key distribution without my in-person verification. With Rachel's help, I consulted a lawyer who sent a formal cease and desist letter to Mom and Tyler, documenting the break-in, and explicitly prohibiting further contact. The restraining order followed when Tyler showed up at Tech Future's reception desk, causing a scene that required security intervention. "This isn't personal," I explained to the sympathetic police officer who processed the order. "It's about safety and boundaries." "Ma'am, family situations are often the most dangerous," he replied. "You're doing the right thing protecting yourself." Therapy sessions with Dr. Marcus intensified as I processed the complicated grief of family estrangement. It wasn't like the clean break of death. This was a messy, ongoing loss complicated by the fact that the people I was grieving were still alive but unsafe to have in my life. "You're mourning the family you deserved but never had," Dr. Marcus explained, "and simultaneously mourning the loss of hope that they might someday become that family." Grandma Karen became an unexpected source of perspective and healing. During our weekly calls, she shared family history I'd never known, patterns of financial exploitation and emotional manipulation that extended back generations. "Your grandfather used money to control me, just as I watched my father do with my mother," she explained. "I didn't realize I was recreating the pattern with Melissa until it was too late. And now she's done the same with Tyler." "But not with me," I said, the realization dawning. "I broke the pattern." "You did," Grandma confirmed. "That's why they're fighting so hard to pull you back in. Systems resist change, even dysfunctional ones." Through her, I connected with cousins who'd had similar experiences with Mom over the years. Allison, my mother's sister's daughter, reached out after hearing about the restraining order. "Aunt Melissa borrowed $10,000 from my parents for a medical emergency back in 2018, she revealed during our first call. When they asked about repayment, she cut off contact and told everyone they were trying to profit from her illness. There was no illness." Other stories emerged: financial manipulation, emotional blackmail, triangulation tactics where Mom would pit family members against each other. We had all been isolated, believing our experiences were unique. Together, we formed an unexpected support network of survivors from the same toxic family system. Returning to work brought its own challenges. While Danielle had been discreetly supportive, rumors of my family drama had spread after Tyler's outburst in reception. I decided transparency was better than whispers and addressed it directly in a meeting with my immediate team. "As some of you may have heard, I'm dealing with a difficult family situation that required legal intervention," I explained simply. "I appreciate your understanding during this time and want to assure everyone that security measures are in place to prevent any workplace disruptions." My colleagues responded with unexpected support, several privately sharing their own experiences with family estrangement or boundary setting. The professional identity I'd worked so hard to build remained intact, perhaps even strengthened by my demonstrated commitment to healthy boundaries. James proved to be an unshakable support throughout the process. One evening, as we cooked dinner together, a routine that had become comfortingly normal amid the chaos, he broached a subject we'd been circling. "I've been thinking," he began, carefully measuring spices for the curry we were preparing. "My lease is up next month. What would you think about me moving in? Not just because of everything that's happened," he added quickly, "but because I love being with you, and it makes practical sense." The old Sam would have panicked at such a suggestion, viewing it through the lens of potential dependency or obligation. The emerging Sam recognized it for what it was: a natural progression in a healthy, mutually supportive relationship. "I'd like that," I replied, surprising myself with how easily the words came. As the weeks passed, the desperate attempts at contact from Mom and Tyler gradually decreased. The flying monkeys, random relatives enlisted to make contact on their behalf, still occasionally appeared with guilt-laden messages, but I'd developed strategies for handling them calmly and firmly. "I understand you care about my mother, and I appreciate your concern," became my standard response. "This is a private matter that's being handled appropriately." Then came an unexpected complication. Grandma Karen was hospitalized with pneumonia, creating a situation where I might encounter Mom and Tyler in a hospital setting. After consulting with Dr. Marcus and my lawyer, I decided to visit during specific hours when Mom typically wouldn't be there, and arranged with hospital security to ensure the restraining order would be enforced if necessary. The first hospital visit went smoothly, with Grandma expressing gratitude for my presence despite the complicated logistics. The second visit resulted in a brief, tense hallway encounter with Mom, who maintained physical distance but couldn't resist a barbed comment about Fairweather family. I responded with a polite nod and continued walking, the interaction barely registering compared to the emotional devastation such encounters would have caused months earlier. As Grandma recovered, Tyler attempted what initially seemed like a genuine reconciliation effort. He called from an unfamiliar number, apologizing for his behavior and suggesting we meet to start fresh as adults. "I've been doing some thinking," he said, sounding uncharacteristically reflective. "Mom's way of handling things isn't always right. I want to build my own relationship with you." For a brief moment, hope flickered. The possibility that at least one family relationship might be salvaged. Then came the reveal. "I've actually got this business opportunity that's perfect for someone with your skills," he continued. "All it needs is a small investment to get started." The transparency of the attempt was almost laughable. "Tyler, I wish you well, but I'm not interested in financial discussions," I replied calmly before ending the call. The first holiday season apart from my biological family loomed as a potential emotional minefield. Rather than attempting to navigate it alone, I accepted James's invitation to join his family's Thanksgiving celebration. Rachel invited me for a chosen family Christmas gathering with her parents and siblings who had informally adopted me during college. I also organized a small New Year's celebration with my newfound support network of cousins who understood exactly what estrangement from Mom entailed. Together, we created new traditions free from the manipulation and walking on eggshells tension that had characterized family gatherings in the past. "It's strange," my cousin Allison observed as we prepared dessert together. "I feel more like family with all of you now than I ever did at official family functions." "Because this is based on mutual respect and genuine connection," I replied, the realization crystallizing as I spoke it, not obligation or fear. The year ended with a sense of bittersweet peace. The pain hadn't disappeared, but its edges had softened. I was learning to carry the grief of family estrangement not as an open wound, but as a healing scar, tender but no longer debilitating. 1 year after the apartment break-in that forced my final boundary with Mom and Tyler, I sat on my balcony with a cup of coffee, reflecting on the profound changes in my life. The calendar date might have passed unnoticed, if not for the memory that appeared on my phone, a photo from 2 years prior of Mom and Tyler during a brief, tense holiday visit. Their smiles didn't reach their eyes, and my own expression showed the strain of maintaining a facade of family harmony. Professionally, the past year had brought unexpected growth. With the emotional drain of toxic family dynamics removed, my focus and creativity flourished. Tech Future had promoted me to technical director, where I now led a team developing our most innovative products. "You've always had the technical skills," Danielle noted during my performance review. "But now you've developed the leadership presence to match." Personal growth paralleled professional development. 6 months after moving in, James proposed during a weekend hike, not with an extravagant gesture, but with a simple, heartfelt question at the summit overlooking the autumn foliage. We planned a small wedding for the following spring, with Rachel as my maid of honor and James's supportive family embracing me completely. My relationship with Grandma Karen deepened into weekly calls and monthly visits. Through her, I maintained connection with the healthier branches of my family tree while respecting the necessary boundaries with its toxic limbs. "You've done what I never could," she told me during a recent visit. "You recognized the pattern and refused to perpetuate it." Rather than funding Tyler's endless business opportunities, I established a small scholarship fund for first-generation college students at my alma mater. The first recipient, a young woman working multiple jobs while pursuing computer science, reminded me of myself a decade earlier. Sometimes the best way to heal is to create the support you needed but never received. Dr. Marcus observed during one of our now monthly sessions. Occasional updates about Mom and Tyler still reached me through family channels. Mom had apparently found a new target for financial support in a distant cousin who'd recently received an inheritance. Tyler continued his pattern of short-lived jobs and grandiose schemes. Neither had acknowledged any responsibility for the events leading to our estrangement. "They're still telling everyone you abandoned the family because of greed," Cousin Allison reported after a rare family funeral where she'd encountered them. "Mom says Aunt Melissa is claiming health problems again. Years ago, such information would have triggered guilt and defensive justification. Now, I felt only a distant sadness for the unchanged patterns. They're entitled to their narrative," I replied. "I'm no longer responsible for correcting it." This perspective hadn't come easily. It emerged through therapy, support groups for family estrangement, and countless conversations with James, Rachel, and others who helped me recognize that love doesn't demand financial servitude or emotional self-erasure. The hardest lesson was accepting that genuine reconciliation would require acknowledgement and change from both Mom and Tyler, something that seemed increasingly unlikely as they doubled down on victimhood narratives. I had established clear conditions for potential future contact: respect for boundaries, acknowledgement of past violations, and commitment to changed behavior. "The door isn't permanently locked," I explained to Grandma during one of our talks, "but I'm no longer leaving it open to be repeatedly slammed in my face." I'd also learned to recognize and interrupt the guilt spirals that occasionally still ambushed me. When Facebook showed Mom's post claiming financial hardship around her birthday, my first instinct was still to reach for my wallet. Instead, I logged out of social media for the day and reviewed the extensive documentation of past manipulation with James. "Your worth isn't measured by financial provision," became a mantra I repeated when old programming threatened to override new boundaries. Perhaps most significantly, I developed a healthier relationship with money itself. Working with a financial therapist alongside Dr. Marcus, I explored how growing up with financial instability and witnessing Mom's manipulation had shaped my own attitudes toward money. "Money amplifies existing relationship dynamics," the financial therapist explained. "In healthy relationships, it's a tool for shared goals and values. In unhealthy ones, it becomes a mechanism for control." This insight helped me establish more intentional financial boundaries in all relationships. I could be generous without being exploited. I could receive without feeling indebted. Money became neither a wall nor a weapon, but simply a resource to be managed with the same care as emotional energy. On the anniversary of the break-in, I wrote a letter to Mom and Tyler that I never intended to send. The exercise, suggested by Dr. Marcus, allowed me to express everything I'd wanted to say without the futility of actual communication that would likely be twisted or dismissed. "I wish you could understand that boundaries aren't rejection," I wrote. "They're the only way relationships survive. I'm not withholding love by refusing financial exploitation. I'm refusing to perpetuate patterns that harm us all." After completing the letter, I performed a small ritual of release, burning the pages on my balcony in a fireproof container while James stood supportive witness. As the paper curled and blackened, I felt the burden of responsibility for their choices finally lifting completely from my shoulders. "Their story continues without me as a character," I told James as we watched the ashes cool, "and mine continues without them." This wasn't the family story I would have chosen. Given the option, I would have preferred parents who celebrated my success rather than attempted to exploit it, who taught financial responsibility rather than dependency, who modeled healthy love rather than conditional manipulation. But it was the story I had been given, and within its painful chapters, I had found resilience, clarity, and eventually freedom. I had broken generational patterns that would have otherwise continued through me. I had built a chosen family based on mutual respect and genuine care. The most powerful form of rebellion against toxic family systems, Dr. Marcus once told me, is to live well and joyfully despite them. As I look toward the future now, career advancement, marriage to James, perhaps children someday, I carry this wisdom forward. Financial boundaries aren't selfish, they're necessary. Love doesn't demand financial sacrifice, it supports mutual flourishing. Family isn't defined by DNA, but by consistent care and respect. If you're watching this and struggling with similar dynamics, please know you're not alone. Setting boundaries with family around money doesn't make you ungrateful or selfish, it makes you healthy. Your worth isn't measured by what you provide financially, and love that comes with price tags isn't love at all. I'd love to hear your experiences with family financial boundaries in the comments below. What difficult boundaries have you had to establish for your well-being? How did you handle the guilt that often accompanies setting limits with family? Drop a like if this story resonated with you. Subscribe for more content about navigating complex family dynamics, and share this video with someone who might need permission to protect their own boundaries. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, you deserve relationships that honor both your generosity and your limits.